Hello, friends, classmates, teachers. Welcome to a 1D10T gives a book report. Today's book report is on Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origin of Fat Phobia by Sabrina Strings. It is a well-written book, not difficult to understand or follow. And if just read at a surface level, it's an informative text. But if you read between the lines at all, it's quite depressing, honestly. It's upsetting. I mean, as Little Billiam would say, let's keep it a buck. I need to find my own way of saying that. Let's keep it real on Front Street, friends. We know where this is going. We do. I was surprised to find out some of the specifics, granted. I mean, we know ultimately that this is going to boil down to racism and patriarchy and Christianity. And I'm not saying all Christianity, not putting a blanket statement there, although I am putting a blanket statement there. In fact, specifically, turns out, I mean, well, let's start breaking it down through Christianity. Not all Christianity. Although, from my perspective, all Christianity is based heavily in the patriarchy and in racism. This book dealt more with Protestantism, pointing out that before Calvin, Catholicism had a bit of an indulgence problem in the eyes of some of the more strict adherents of the book, of the Bible. Thusly, you end up with Calvin, his 99 Theses, and the schism and the Reformation and Puritans. And I felt in my heart and bones that Puritans were probably the ones who were doing this, you know. Manifest destiny seems to seep into everything that they've ever touched, and it seems to corrupt and rot everything down to its bone. And yes, Puritans. Calvinists, to be specific, apparently. This book doesn't pick up exactly with Rubens, the guy who painted the plus-size women, who then got the nickname for plus-size women named after him, Rubenesque, that Rubens. But the book picks up right around there, a little before, and a lot of context. This book gives a lot of context. And it really goes up until, 2014, 2015, 2013 or so is, well, let's see when it was published. 2019. Some of the last studies that she cites were in, let's see here, were in wow, this is hard to do without having anything written down. Gosh, I really do hope that the Producers Guild gets their stuff together and gets their collective head out of their collective posterior, because it's not fun for me trying to create content but not being able to write anything. Anyway, it seems like some of the last ones that she cited were in 2013. I don't really want to bury the lead here. So I'm gonna read you the last paragraph of the epilogue, because I think it really does sort of cover a lot of what I was, well, a lot of what I got out of the book, honestly. A lot of this book is about context, very much providing context. This is the crux of the issue. The image of fat black women as savages and barbarous in art, philosophy, and science, and as diseased in medicine, has been used to both degrade black women and discipline white women. For decades, white feminist scholars and historians focused largely on the impact of the thin ideal on middle and upper class white women. They claimed that the thin ideal was oppressive, but also suggested that they did not know how it developed. This book endeavors to address that question, adding a much-needed intersectional component to the analysis of the development of fat phobia and the slender aesthetic, revealing race to be the missing element in many of these analyses. Indeed, the racial discourse of fatness as coarse, immoral, black, and other not only denigrated black women, it also served as the driver for the creation of slenderness as the proper form of embodiment for elite white Christian women. In other words, the fear of the black body was an integral to the creation of the slender aesthetic among fashionable white Americans. I feel like that paragraph incisively describes what this book tries to do. And I say tries because while in most cases it's very good at providing a lot of context, I felt like it well, I feel like it tiptoed around the use and abuse of bodies of color, specifically of women's bodies of color, due to the slave trade. And it did, it in the first part of the book, the book really did discuss sort of how the slave trade in very delicate terms, how the slave trade influenced how white society saw black bodies. I don't feel like this book really dug into it, and we spent a lot of time looking at slimness as a beauty aesthetic, as opposed to a foil for racism, for the racist view of the othered bodies of people of color. That being said, like I said, this was written in 2019, and I feel like the climate in this nation anyway was a little more unstable. And it's highly possible that academics were, let's be serious, the academic climate in this nation is still unstable. Keep it real on Front Street. But it's possible that Sabrina Strings very carefully danced on eggshells around some of the more divisive and I don't want to say inflammatory, even though that's what they are, these issues, but I mean, they are inflammatory, but they shouldn't be. They obscene. Yeah, I think we'll go with obscene depictions of bodies of color. Yeah. It is a very chronologically well-ordered book, moving from pretty much from, you know, the earliest parts of the Enlightenment and pre-Enlightenment through the Age of Reason, and into and through the modern age and postmodern age. It is a good book for some background on the subjects that I'm working on. And on the whole, I think it's a very well-written book, not too difficult to read. Some of the sentence structures may have been a little clunky at times, but, you know, try listening to one of my videos all the way through. And I think it did a very good job of giving the information that it was trying to and providing the perspective that it was trying to. Yeah, I think that's about where we're at with it. I will be turning it over to my ASOC prod at some point to go through and help pull out the salient points for the 1D10T with a cell phone talks about series. And you know, let me finish up by reading out her technicals, you know. Just so everybody knows, this is published by the New York University Press. The title again is Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia by Sabrina Strings. Published in 2019. Sabrina Strings is, at the time of publishing, assistant professor of sociology at the University of California, Irvine. She previously held an appointment as a Chancellor's Postdoctoral Fellow in the Department of Sociology at the School of Public Health at the University of California, Berkeley. I'd be willing to bet that she's got more bona fides than that. But those are the ones listed on the back of the book. I may go into finding out more about her at a later date. Right now, I believe that this book has plenty of good information and provides very good context for the conversation that I'm trying to have. Well, friends, classmates, teachers, and all the rest of y'all out there who may have happened in, thank you for joining me here for An Idiot with a Cell Phone Gives a Book Report. Yes, that's what 1D10T stands for, if anybody has not picked up on that yet. Right. Well, thank you for joining me. Have a good evening, and I'll see you guys again soon. And stay safe, Canada. Good night.